Morning, everyone. Sorry about the delay. We had technical problems. I was talking into the ether. So there's lots of things happening today. Obviously, it's by-election day, and as people have noted there, if you are in any of those constituencies or you know anyone who is, can we just please remember you need photo ID if you haven't used postal voting. If you had a postal vote, by the way, thought, I forgot to post it, you can just go along to the polling station and post it. That's fine. Don't post it in the letterbox. Too late now. But you can go to the polling station. But yes, we'll be discussing that tomorrow because we'll find the results out quite quickly. But today I'm going to talk about the Tories' poison pen letters. So this has happened a little bit, actually. Usually, like when there's letters exchanged between the government and the opposition, it's usually opposition MPs who write to the relevant minister because they want to ask a question about policy. They may be asking on behalf of some constituents. They may be asking on behalf of themselves or their party, but they're asking questions of ministers who are the people who can answer the questions about policy because they decide policy, right? Or it might be funding. You know, they might be asking about how much is this going to cost. So those sort of letters are quite common. What's been happening, we've had a little bit of this, but we've had two this week. Suella Braverman and Grant Shapps, who are themselves cabinet ministers, they've been writing to Keir Starmer. And it's like, well, that's odd because he's not deciding policy yet. He has policy proposals, and in about a year, he should be deciding policy, but at the moment, he's not. So what are they writing to him about? And it's really a poison pen letter. They're trying to stoke up issues. And what's interesting to note is they've both used the same words. They're both describing Labour as the political wing of Just Stop Oil. Now, before I get on to sort of what they're playing at there, it's worth noting Grant Shapps and Suella Braverman are not exactly bosom buddies, right? Grant Shapps was right from the start like a Rishi Sunak supporter. Suella Braverman's not. She's in cabinet really because she did a deal with him. Grant Shapps replaced Suella Braverman when she was sacked. So I don't think, and just politically, they're not really on the same level. So for them both to be using exactly the same words, they haven't coordinated amongst each other. This is clearly like a Tory strategy to try and link in Labour with Just Stop Oil. Now, the reason they're doing it, of course, is because Just Stop Oil are unpopular. But their aims are not, and this is where they're making a mistake. So Just Stop Oil are unpopular because, of course, they're absolutely appalling as campaigners. If you're a campaigner, you are aiming to put under pressure one of two groups of people. You're either aiming to lobby ministers because they are the ones who can change policy, or you are aiming to get the public on your side so that the public then put pressure on their MP, who puts pressure on the government. Unfortunately, Just Stop Oil's plan is to basically piss everyone off, so it's not really working. So they've become quite unpopular. But what is happening here is Grant Shapps in his letter is suggesting that Labour should pay for the criminal damage caused by Just Stop Oil. Now, a few things here. First of all, his basis for this is that a guy who donated to Labour also donated to Just Stop Oil. So a third-party donation, right? Now, here's the thing. Let's go down the list, first of all. First of all, Just Stop Oil have not committed any criminal damage unless a court says so. Now, there have been numerous court cases against Just Stop Oil protesters, the vast majority of which have not been nothing to do with criminal damage. There has been a small amount that's been proven, which amounts to about $3,000. Do you know what? I could pay that bill. Not a problem. But that's it. It's like in terms of court cases, because I've checked, there's like a few grand's worth of criminal damage being caused by Just Stop Oil as far as the courts are concerned. And if no court has convicted them, then they haven't committed a crime, at least in law. The second thing is the Conservatives are playing a bit of a funny game because you know what? This is how I would respond if I were Keir Starmer. I would first of all say, because the Conservatives, bear in mind, if you look at who they take donations from, well, it's Vladimir Putin's oligarchs. So that means that they are offering to pay for the reconstruction of Ukraine, is it? And they've been doing that for a very long time. And we also know that the Conservatives banned MI5 and MI6 from investigating evidence of Russian interference in our politics. We know that from the Russian report. The defense, was it the defense committee? I can't remember. But the select committee that were that prepared that report actually said that the government had told them not to look for evidence. So we know that the Tories have covered for Putin's oligarchs. We know they've taken money from him, and we know that they've put one of them into the House of Lords. So that's a much stronger link there. So surely they should be paying for the reconstruction of Ukraine. Then when it comes to environmental matters, so although Just Stop Oil are very unpopular, their policies effectively are not. In fact, Labour's environmental policies are very much in tune with not just the general public, but when you look at polling and you break it down, even Conservative voters support, more of them support Labour's environmental policies than not. So it's got widespread support. So you then think to yourself, so the Conservatives also take donations from oil companies, don't they? And they have paid back with huge tax breaks for oil companies. So are they also going to pay for the damaging effects of climate change, at least in this country? Are they going to pay? Are they going to personally pay, not government money? Are they personally going to pay when people's houses are flooded? Are they going to compensate families when they lose someone to when people die as a result of heat waves? You know, it's quite remarkable. And if I were Keir Starmer, I would write back with that. I would actually say to them, I would thank the boneheads for their letter. Thought, very nice of you to write to me. How nice. I love receiving fan mail. I would say, how interesting is it that you think that, you know, your departments are doing so well, you've got time to write these joke letters. And I would say, I'm very interested to learn that political parties should be responsible for groups who receive donations from common third parties. And when will Rishi Sunak be announcing that the Conservative Party will be paying for the rebuilding of Ukraine due to you receiving donations from Vladimir Putin's regime, directly or indirectly? And when can we expect you to start paying for the Conservative Party paying for the damage of climate change, given that you are also receiving donations from people who promote it? And that's directly as well, because it's not just that the Conservatives receive donations from oil companies. Tory MPs receive donations from climate change skeptics as well, groups that are set up to argue against net zero. So anyway, I'll catch up with a few comments here. Christopher Ball saying, using 4 name shaps in this strategy is very silly. Are you discussing Just Stop Oil? Is their course on the daily agenda? If yes, the campaign is a success. It's not though, is it? Because look at because Vince said this, didn't he? The donor, Dale Vince. He said in an interview, the fact that I'm here talking to you proves that their methods are working because you're interviewing me. But I would say no, because if I go down the street and I was to say to people, Just Stop Oil, can you tell me about them? They will talk about the disruption they cause. They're not going to talk about, if I ask an ordinary person on the street, what are Just Stop Oil's like agenda? What are they after? It's like, well, they want to, all they'll do is read into the name. Well, they want to stop oil. They don't actually know. So when you look at any media report on Just Stop Oil, none of it is about their demands. None of it at all. So no, I'm going to disagree. I'm going to say it's nonsense. And even when, on the rare occasions, Dale Vince is invited to talk about the issues, and he does, he's very good, by the way. He's actually very good at sidestepping the nonsense from interviewers and getting his points across. But even then, he's not doing it to a lot of viewers. He's doing it on small, like, you know, mid-morning programs and things like that. There's no big write-ups in the papers or anything like that. So no, all that's focused. In fact, I'll tell you what Just Stop Oil's legacy is. It's the public order bill, because they've managed to ram that through specifically because of their unpopularity. They, you know, the government were able to justify removing our rights to peaceful protest on the basis of we need to Just Stop Oil. But anyway, thank you very much for the super chats there. Oros Bartolo, 20 euros. Thank you very much. And Scoopnum there saying, viral TikTok video showing a woman in the streets convincing everyone that, I don't even know what that is. But thank you very much for the super chat anyway. There seems to be a formatting issue with that. But let's have a look. Admiral Pegasus said, I agree with the premise of JSO, but not their actions. There are other means of getting the point across. Phil's convinced me about politics. Thank you for opening my eyes. The aims are absolutely. I mean, the thing is, this is why I get annoyed with JSO, because their aims already have public approval. Honestly, the public, like even conservative voters, recognize the climate emergency. You sometimes think not, because it's quite clear the conservative MPs as a group are like Rishi Sunak formally approves of net zero, and yet he allows his MPs, the climate deniers, including Grant Shapps. Grant Shapps, remember, is anti-net zero, and he allows them to stop the government really doing much about it. So, oh yeah, absolutely, net zero, net zero, net zero. Oh, what are you doing about it then? Oh, nothing at the moment, because my MPs won't let me. So, you know, but the public, even conservative voters, recognize that we need to do something. So it should be quite easy, but they're actively upsetting the public. So they're not. It's like the purpose of them. It's not even like trying to persuade the public of anything. The public are already persuaded. This is why. Bear in mind, as this is the Labour Social, Labour's policy for blocking all new licenses for exploration, like in the North Sea. That, I mean, unions are dead against it. Unions are right against that. That would be a very interesting move for Keir Starmer, who's clearly not adopting any policy that can be a vote loser, right? He's been really, really almost anal about it, isn't he? He's not adopting any policy that could be a vote loser. Something like this 10 years ago would have been astounding for a Labour leader to say. Because, you know, there's all the jobs and blah, 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 costing jobs. Even, as I say, unions are arguing against it. They say, no, don't do this. And yet he's saying, no, we're going to do this. And why? Because it's popular. It's really popular. It's not just the right thing to do in this case. It is actually stunningly popular. Hello, Wilkes there, £5 super chat. Thank you very much. And Ed Flap there saying Graham's done a video on this channel on climate change and the deniers, etc. So you could check that out as well. TikTok showed a video of an angry driver punching and kicking a JSO protester. Yes, so now this is what I would also say. So I've seen some videos as well. The problem is, again, the way the media are presenting JSO is it's allowing other members of the public to feel that they have the rights to get out and not just pull someone out of their way, but actually to physically assault them. And this is, but this is what I mean. This is what JSO is in the public. They're people who, and now the government and the media have convinced people that actually they're within their rights to like effectively behave like vigilantes. Because that's all that's coming through in the media. Nothing to do with their cause. None of that's being reported at all. None of it. It's entirely about their disrupting. They're these posh, rich boys and girls who are protesting but we're not going to say what they're protesting at. You can guess what it is from their slogan, from the name of their group. And all they're doing is stopping you getting to work or getting to wherever, getting to hospital, whatever it is. So, you know, that's why their techniques are, it's like, if you look at Extinction Rebellion, because Swilla Braverman mentions Extinction Rebellion as well. She demands that Keir Starmer sack any member of his shadow cabinet or even front bench who has expressed any support for Extinction Rebellion or Just Stop Oil, which is nonsense, of course. But Extinction Rebellion, noticed they sort of were doing the same thing and then they stopped because they realized that actually those methods weren't helping them. You know, all it was doing was pissing people off, and actually they need the people on side. So very, very similar aims in many ways. And they were using, so Just Stop Oil have basically gone, oh, Extinction Rebellion, they tried all that stuff that didn't work. And now they've decided it didn't work. They're going to do something else. Oh, we should do the same stuff that didn't work. Anyway. You say people shouldn't protest in case it annoys the public and government. No one's saying they shouldn't protest. What you do is protests have to be annoying, but they have to annoy the people that you are against, not the people you need on your side. You don't annoy your allies. Like, imagine, right? So imagine going to a public meeting, right? And this public meeting is going to vote for something. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be, or it might not be a public meeting. It might be your committee. You might be wanting a committee or something like that, some group of people to vote for a proposal of yours, right? So you walk into the room and you go around the room going, you're a bellend, you're a dickhead, you're an arsehole, right? Oh, by the way, I want you to support my proposal. It's like, well, the same one there. So what you have to do is you get the people who support you, you get them on side, and you make inconvenience for people against you. We could look at other protests as well, because we're crap at protesting in this country. I don't think we should go like France, because we don't want to set fire to the city either. That doesn't help. But we need a happy medium. Like farmers, for example, when they were protesting against leaving the single market, what did they do? They drove some tractors down a road. That's what they did. Did they drive their tractors and block in a Conservative MP's driveway? Did they go and block the opening to a government facility? No, they did not. Like, look what happened, because occasionally we can do protests. Look what happened in the early noughties. This is when Labour in power, and there was fuel prices were rising, and obviously this pissed everyone off, but it really pissed off lorry drivers, like haulage companies, because so they wanted the government to like reduce fuel duty or something to help ease the problem. And what did they do? They blocked refinery entrances. They took their lorries and they blocked refinery entrances. So then we ended up with a petrol shortage. If for those who are of my age or older can remember that. That is because lorry drivers, they didn't just drive their lorries down a road to protest. Like, you don't protest by driving a motor vehicle down a road, which is designed for motor vehicles. You go to somewhere that is an essential part of our national infrastructure and you block it. And that's what you do. That way, and they didn't piss, even though the public were like suffering from fuel shortages and people like, having their cars damaged and stuff. What you are doing is you're then causing the major annoyance to the government. But haulage drivers didn't vote to raise prices on fuel, didn't they? Some of them did. Please remember the courts has issued injunctions against blockading refineries. This is forced change of venue. Yes, but the point is that what they did is they put pressure on the government, not people, even though people were also affected. Because in a protest, of course, they are going to be, by definition, disruptive. That's the whole point of them. But they focus like, so Just Stop Oil, right? They slow walk down a road. How does that hurt the government? How does that hurt a Tory MP? Doesn't, does it? It only harms the public. So the damage to the public is not collateral. It's the whole point of it. Basically Just Stop Oil, because the only people who can change policy right now are the Conservative government, right? So Just Stop Oil want the Conservative government to change a policy. So their plan is to say, right, we're going to piss off the public, to which the Conservative government go, okay, you go right ahead, because we piss them off all the time. We quite like the media to reporting on someone else pissing them off. So actually their protests help the government. It's helped the government justify removal of protest rights. And it's also distracting the government when it does get reported in the news. It's distracting the public from the latest way in which the Conservatives are pissing them off. It's like, well, here's this other group pissing you off as well. Why don't you focus on them for a little bit? It's just, it doesn't matter how much people say, oh, but it's not working. The methods are, it doesn't matter how much you agree with their beliefs. The methods aren't working. They're shit. They're crap. As campaigning goes, it's like the worst campaign ever. Except it's not, because Extinction Rebellion used to do the same thing and got the same result. Except this is worse, because now we've got actual peaceful protest rights removed. Peter said JSO's tactics actually help the Tories by giving them ammunition. Yes, the Tories can only use it by being dishonest, but the Tories being dishonest is as much shock news as the Pope being a Catholic. Of course, we've only got the Pope's word for it. He's Catholic, but it probably is. Fruit Batcat saying, you're contradicting your previous point. We need protest disruption, but not kind of disruption. Yeah, you disrupt the government. That's what you need to do. If you like, they want. I cannot say it any simpler than this. They want the government. Are they trying to persuade the public to change their mind about something? No, they're trying to persuade the government to change a policy. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to persuade a government to change its policy. So how are they pressuring the government to do that? By pissing off people in London? The government don't care about that. Like, London doesn't even vote Tory. They really don't care. In fact, I'll tell you how little the Tories care about London. You may have noticed they've now formally selected their candidate for the London mayoral contest, Susan Hall. They had a load of candidates, a load of Conservatives wanting to be the Conservative candidate, and they whittled them all down to the worst one. Susan Hall is known for being the weakest candidate. She was the weakest candidate at the start when there were like 10 of them. The Conservatives have whittled it down to the one least likely to win. That is how little they care about London. But even if, you know, and that's where most of the disruption is taking place. But also it's providing the government with cover. There's not a single Conservative MP who gives a shit about the protests at all. Not one of them. Protest outside your MP's house. See, I would argue, I mean, although I did say, you know, maybe drive your tractor outside the MP's house to block them in. I'd be careful about protesting outside the MP's house, because remember, the MP may have children and other innocent people who will also be caught up in it. So it depends on the protest. I would certainly say protest outside the constituency office. I would certainly say or protest outside of a business that the MP owns, because they usually own a business when they're Tory MP. Something like that. Daily Blase saying, I remember the guy from Republic saying that annoying those in the majority was counterproductive in their cause to win them over in that one-off Home Affairs Select Committee meeting. But it is, you have to think strategically, like, what is your aim for the government to change policy? Right, how do we persuade the government to change policy? By providing a useful distraction for them in the media? No, they love that. They love it. It is really, is it? In fact, Graham's saying there about Susan Hall being the nuttiest nutter in the nut farm that is the Tory party. Do you know what? She was raging yesterday. So she should be delighted. She's been selected as the Conservative candidate to run for Mayor of London against Sadiq Khan. And she was raging. Do you know why? Because, is it the Evening Standard, one of the London papers, they put a photo of her, which she did not think was flattering. And actually, it wasn't very flattering at all. But there we go. JSO's other protests at the snooker, tennis, proms, cricket are very brief but get maximum publicity. I think these are very effective. About a 5-minute interruption. With those ones, are they effective or not? They're better. But again, unless the media are reporting on their, like, again, you still have to ask yourself, how is it persuading Rishi Sunak to change policy? Because if it's not, even those don't work. They are better because they're not pissing people off. Like, even if, you know, you disrupt a game of snooker or a game of tennis, it's like, well, protests happen. I mean, when it happens in the cricket, we actually love, you know, you get streakers going on. Like, that's what they should do. They should, like, you know, the old "You've Been Tangoed" adverts. They should get someone covered in like orange makeup from head to foot, go off and streak across the cricket pitch. Oh, I remember when that used to sort of happen. And then you'd have the stewards chasing after them. Obviously, the last time they tried it in the cricket, it was Ben Stokes who hauled them off thing. But that sort of thing's fine. You can do that. People do that. But again, you still have to ask yourself, how is it meeting their aim of changing Rishi Sunak's mind? Because it's not, is it? And Rishi Sunak likes his cricket. He likes his cricket. He likes his football. Although I don't think, have there been any protests? Have there been any? I know there are. I know it's out of season in the football at the moment, but have they done anything with the football? I can't remember. But they you know, when you're campaigning for something, you have to be laser focused on your aim and how you're going to achieve it. And their aim is to change Rishi Sunak's mind. So to do that, they either need to persuade Conservative voters to harass their Conservative MP, or they need to harass the Conservative MP themselves, or they need to harass a member of the government who is also a Conservative MP. And what have they done that does any of those things? I honestly can't think of anything at all. But there we go. So Ross saying there's so many factions are in conflict in the Tory party currently. Will they be able to do any governing before the next general election at all? Well, at the moment, they're not. So what's going to happen if we look at the by-elections? We can't be certain of anything, but there's a very good chance, higher than 50% probability, that Rishi Sunak wakes up tomorrow to find he's lost all three, right? That is going to upset. There are some Tory MPs who think they can win Selby, right? They know Somerton Frome's gone. They sort of know Uxbridge is basically gone. But they still think, well, according to reports I read anyway, there are some Tory MPs who still think Selby's winnable. Now, if they lose it and lose it badly, Tory MPs this summer will start demanding Rishi Sunak do something. Rishi Sunak wants another reset, because it's all going badly wrong. So he wants another reset. But he can't change policies because the policies he's adopted are the ones that he can get his MPs to go along with. Like, he's had to drop policies that he knows he shouldn't be doing. Like, for example, although he still officially says they're the party of net zero, they're not. They're not doing anything. Housing targets, he scrapped those because, Conservative councillors were harassing Conservative MPs. So, there isn't anything he can really do. He's not dealing with immigration issues at all of any kind, whether economic or asylum seekers. He's not getting the waiting list down. As Starmer said yesterday, they've actually gone up. Inflation's a mess because even though the report this week was that it has come down a bit, it's still higher than is supposed to be. And it's all, even though it may well still have halved by the end of this year, it's still a mess. And also, they're getting caught up in this nonsense that a lot of the public think that when inflation comes down, prices should come down. But that's not how it works. They still go up. They just don't go up as much. But we will finish off with just a reminder again about the by-elections. If anyone is involved in them, do not forget your photo ID and make sure it's the right sort. Oh, George has just come back from voting, indeed. Right. Freckle Puny saying, I remember the anti-poll tax protests and riots. They were affected because they were backed up by non-payment and genuine public anger. Well, something like that. Yeah, I mean, that was huge. Absolutely massive. That very rarely happens in this country, though. In fact, it was quite remarkable. As a young lad, it was like, what's going on? JSO should sponsor Blackpool FC. Yes, maybe. Their colour is orange, for those who don't know. Would a Selby win be enough to get Sunak to go for a general election? No. I mean, I don't know. Like I keep saying, they should go for a general election this year, but I don't think they will because the problem is they're on for such a hiding. They'll just wait for next year, even though next year will probably be worse, just because it might not be worse. I think they'll just be thinking, we cannot go there. But there we go. We'll call it there. Thank you very much for coming on. Don't forget to click the like button and to check out the Patreon link below because Graham often after this goes off and does a thing on the Discord where you're listening to James O'Brien. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. Thank you for coming on. Graham will presumably be talking about the by-election results tomorrow, as will I at some point. But have a good day, everyone. And until next time, I'll see you later.